Mountain is about this particular place in Switzerland. While there, Reich completes function of the orgasm, comes back a new man. On July 15th, he witnesses this horrendous event that took place. Oh, welcome, welcome. How you doing? He witnesses this horrendous event that took place in Vienna on July 15th, 1927. The backstory here is, in January of 1927, some of these, the Home Guard, remember I showed you this militia that was associated with the Christian Socialists, a guy or a group of men, 3 men, shot and killed a child and a member of the Social Democrats. This was in a town outside of Vienna. On July 13th, they were acquitted, even though the evidence was like really strong. It's sort of like a Rodney King kind of thing. They're acquitted, and on July 15th, spontaneously, this massive demonstration breaks out in Vienna. The Social Democratic Party is not happy. The Social Democratic Party likes to control things. And they didn't like that this was a free-rein demonstration. Instead of calling out the Schutzbahn, their own militia, they send them to the barracks. And so there are all these workers confronting the police. And the police open fire and kill 85 people and wound hundreds. The workers then set fire to the Palace of Justice. I mean, it's this real riot. Reich witnesses all of this firsthand. He has a patient coming, and the patient comes in and says, "Dr. Reich, see what's going on outside." So instead of doing therapy, he goes outside. He witnesses this. He then calls Annie, and together they go out, and they're hiding behind a tree, and bullets are flying all around them. And it's an incredible event. And according to his own words, he immediately joins the Arbeiterhilfe, the Workers' Help, the next day, which is a medical group affiliated with the KP. Now, this funny thing is Communist Party Austria. KP, I don't know how to pronounce the O with the umlaut. So it's not clear that he's joined the Communist Party yet, but he's joined a group of physicians that's allied with the communists. According to Ilse Ohlendorf, he joined the party in 1928. I don't know of any evidence of that, but she claims that. But in October of 1928, Reich does march with the communists, and this again is described in People of Trouble. And if you haven't read this recently, read it. It's in the chapter called This is Politics, where there's going to be this massive demonstration in this Wiener Neustadt, which is like a new suburb of Vienna. And on the one hand are going to be the Christian socials, and on the other hand are going to be social democrats. It's like 40,000 people, and 250 communists come in to try to break it up. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And Reich says that, and he says, "I should know, I was one of them." So it seems pretty clear he's identifying in October as a communist, but it's a little ambiguous the way he words it. In December of 1928, Reich forms the Socialist Society for Sexual Counseling and Sexual Research. And I want to read to you from the statutes of this newly formed society. If I can find the right piece of paper. Where is it here? Am I going too fast? No. Yes? No. No. Have I put you to sleep? No. Okay. This is from the statutes of this newly formed society. The enormous sexual problems of our times, determined by the capitalist organization of society and based above all on ignorance and wrong opinions about the most basic facts of sexual life, manifested in an appalling increase in suicide among both children and adults, in unhappy marriages, and in a constant diminishing capacity of people to live and work, justify our efforts to expose and combat them. This is the essential aim of society. But note, the language is couched in the language of Marxism, that these problems are determined by the capitalist organization of society. And a lot of people, though this group was not affiliated with the Communist Party, a lot of the medical people in it were all communists. And again, Reich himself may have been one. Now, this idea of opening up free clinics was not new. We've heard about or read about Freud's open clinics, the ambulatorium. But Reich's position was far more ambitious. In January, they opened the first of what becomes 6 counseling centers for, and this is translation, factory workers and it's workers and employees, but it's the way the words are worded, or factory workers and low-level employees. In addition to these 6 clinics, they had a mobile unit. They had this truck, and they would drive around Vienna to neighborhoods and give out information about contraception, about, you know, the need for sexual health and the like. So he was very much in the streets. He was very much active. In September of 1929, Reich goes to Moscow and lectures there, not to a great reception, but visits with Vera Schmidt, who is running a Summerhill kind of school, a free school where sexual enlightenment was part of her program. Vera Schmidt gets silenced pretty quickly, though she never leaves the Soviet Union. I finally tracked down a book of hers from 1924, and my German reading colleague, who I was hoping would be here today, is reading it. On December 12th, there's a meeting at Freud's house to talk about how to prevent neuroses. And this is where Reich is saying, treating neuroses is a chumps game. What we have to do is change society so that there isn't neuroses. And it's out of this conversation that Freud ends up writing Civilization and Its Discontents, as sort of a rebuttal of Reich. But what Freud didn't know, and which I didn't realize until I read this Robinbach thing, that the very next night, December 13th, Friday, December 13th, Reich is speaking before 1,500 to 2,000 people in a huge tavern. In December of 1929, Reich started an opposition movement to the Social Democrats called the Revolutionary Social Democrats. He did this with a few Social Democratic functionaries. So he started what was referred to as the left opposition to the Social Democratic Party. They gather at this meeting on December 13th, and Reich speaks out very critically against the Social Democrats for compromising with the Christian socialists. And he says the resulting constitutional changes is fascistic, and he says civil war is coming, you need to be ready for that, etc., etc. The Christian, and we know what he said, because there was a stenographer there from the Social Democratic Party, and she took down the words verbatim. And these words are now available. They were displayed in Vienna at the Reich exhibit back in the Jewish Museum in Vienna in 2007, when they had that Reich exhibit. You can see these words. I mean, they're reproduced in the catalog of the museum. A Social Democrat gets up and says, "This is all communist talk. All Social Democrats leave." And a big group goes out. Someone turns off the lights. Chairs are thrown. A riot ensues. Reich is saying, "Go out the back door, go out the back door." And the police, there are the police reports. I mean, you can read all this stuff, not only in the local Social Democratic newspaper, but in the police reports. This is a way of saying that Reich was much more politically involved than we have been led to believe. He is called before the Social Democrats early in January. And by the way, Reich describes this meeting and people in trouble, but he doesn't tell you that he's the one who called for the meeting. He's the one who paid for the flyers. He's the one who rented the hall. He does say it, but sort of indirectly. I mean, I can tell you how he says it. It's not funny. I mean, it's just kind of interesting. I think, frankly, what I think is that Reich was embarrassed later in life by his naivete in getting involved with the communists and by his naivete of getting involved with politics. And so he sort of downplays it. So like he says, "Through my efforts, the Schutzbund conferred with the communists without actually joining them. The convention hall at Stollener's in Hernals, which held approximately 2,000 people, was rented for the occasion." Was rented. But then the next sentence, "I contributed the money." Not, "I didn't rent the hall." It says, "I contributed the money, and at their request gave the main address." Well, before an overflowing audience. Now that's all true. However, they had worked out ahead of time what he was supposed to say, and he didn't say what he was supposed to say. He really got into it, and his Social Democratic comrades turn on him later. He's called before a trial by the party on January 8th, and on January 16th, he's thrown out of the Social Democratic Party. This is the first in a series of dismissals